If you'd asked anyone on the Diary of a Madman crew which member of the band might not make it through the tour, me, Randy, Rudy or Tommy, they'd have put all their money on me. Sharon was convinced something bad would happen, so whenever I'd been drinking in the hotel, she'd steal all my clothes so there was no way I could leave and get into any trouble, unless I was prepared to walk down to the lobby stark bollock naked. It worked. Most of the time. But then we got to San Antonio, Texas. As usual, I got shit-faced in the hotel, and as usual, Sharon nicked my clothes. But she made the mistake of leaving one of her evening gowns in the room. It was this dark green frilly thing, and with a bit of ripping and tearing at the seams, I got it on. Then I found some running shoes, and I was off. So there I was in Sharon's evening dress, on the loose, slinging this bottle of Courvoisier around the streets of San Antonio, looking for trouble. Then I got this sudden urge to take a piss, as you do when you're blasted. But I was in the middle of this strange town in Texas, and I didn't have a clue where the public bogs were. So I looked around, found a quiet corner, and started taking a slash against this crumbly old wall. Then I heard this voice behind me. "You disgust me." What? I turned around to see this old-timer in a cowboy hat, staring at me like I'd just molested his gran. "You're a disgrace, do you know that?" "My girlfriend nicked my clothes," I explained. "It ain't the dress, you limey faggot piece of dirt. That wall you're relieving yourself on is the Alamo." Two fat Texan coppers came puffing round the corner, radios crackling. "That's the one," said the old bloke. "Him, in the dress." Bam! I was face down in the dirt, being handcuffed. It took a moment for it all to click. I'd definitely heard of the Alamo. I'd seen the John Wayne movie a few times. So I knew it was this big deal place where lots of Americans had been killed while they were fighting the Mexicans. But I hadn't made the connection between the old wall I was pissing on and the ruins of a sacred national monument. 10 minutes later, I was sharing a jail cell with a 20-stone Mexican bloke who'd just murdered his wife with a brick, or some crazy shit. I was in the cage for about 3 hours. Some of the cops and their friends came over to look at me. They did me for public intoxication, and they let me out in time for the gig. Although the chief came down personally to tell me that as soon as the show was over, I had to leave town and never show my ugly mug again. That one piss cost me a fortune in lost San Antonio gigs over the years. A few years later, I apologised in person to the mayor and donated 10 grand to the Daughters of the Republic of Texas. He let me play in the town again after that. When I finally went back, I remember this scrawny Mexican kid coming up to me after the show. "Ozzy, is it true you got busted for pissing on the Alamo?" he asked me. "Yeah," I told him, "it's true." "Shit, man," he said. "We piss on it every night on our way home." We were in the tour bus on our way from Tennessee to Florida when Randy broke the news. "I don't think I want to be a rock and roller anymore," he said. We were sitting at a little picnic table in the kitchen area of the bus, which was like a 5-star hotel on wheels. It was 3 or 4 in the morning, and me and Randy were the only ones still awake. It was a 700-mile journey from Knoxville to Orlando, and the driver was going like the clappers. "How could you quit now?" I said to him. "Tomorrow night we're playing with Foreigner." Randy just shrugged and said, "I want to go to university." "Look," I went on, "why don't you get some rest? Give yourself a bit of a break, you know." "I could say the same thing to you, Ozzy." "What do you mean?" "That's your 4th bottle of gin in 24 hours. You'll kill yourself, you know," said Randy. "Good night, Randy," I said, draining my glass. "I'm off to bed." When I opened my eyes a few hours later, it was getting light. Sharon was lying next to me in her dressing gown. Then I heard the noise. It sounded like an engine at full revs. Whatever it was that was making the din seemed to move away from the bus, but then all of a sudden it came back, even louder than before. "Sharon," I said, "what the fuck is that noise?" Then my head smashed into the bed frame as all the windows of the bus exploded. I jump out of bed and force open the bedroom door. There are tiny fragments of glass everywhere and a fucking massive hole in the roof. Then I notice that the entire bus has been bent into a V shape. Then I'm coughing from the stench of the fuel and the smoke from the fire outside. And I think, fire and fuel. Oh, fuck. Everyone get out of the fucking bus, I start to shout. It's gonna blow. Panic. Numb legs. Sharon screaming. I was still sozzled from the gin. I ran to the open door at the front of the bus, pulling Sharon along behind me. I jumped out of the bus and landed on the grass. At that point, I thought I must have been dreaming. We were parked in the middle of a field, surrounded by a bunch of over-the-top Coke dealer-style mansions. Then, next to one of the houses, a giant fireball. There was wreckage strewn around it. Oh, Jesus Christ. I almost threw up when I saw that shit. Meanwhile, Sharon was trying to do a head count, but people were scattered all over the field. They were just pointing at the flames and wailing and sobbing. Then Sharon went over to Jake Duncan, our Scottish tour manager. Where are Randy and Rachel? All Jake could do was point towards the flames. I don't understand, Sharon said. I didn't understand either. Nobody had said, oh, by the way, Ozzy, on the way to Orlando, we're going to stop off at a bus depot in Leesburg to fix the air conditioning. And the bus depot is part of this dodgy housing estate with an airstrip. Oh, yeah, and your driver, Aycock, who's been up all night out of his mind on cocaine, also happens to be a pilot who's going to borrow some bloke's plane without his permission and then, while you're fast asleep, take your lead guitarist and your makeup artist on a sightseeing trip above the tour bus before dive bombing into it.